Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make some hero bowls with hero meat, roasted sweet potatoes, some sautéed veggies, and a homemade tzatziki sauce, and some kind of chicken herb rice. And then we're going to make up some Rice Krispie treats because all of my baked goods are gone already, and I'm like trying to make it so I can put it in their lunch every day, and they just keep eating it. We're going to rinse. I've got 1.5 cups of rice here. So we're going to rinse this and then we're going to let it start to cook because the rice is probably going to take the longest here. So we're going to rinse it for like 30 seconds to a minute just to get the nice creaminess out of it. And it just is going to give you a fluffier, nicer rice that isn't as sticky and mushy. There we go. And then I'm just going to give it a couple shakes out. And we're going to add it into our pan. And then I'm going to add in 2 1/4 cups of water. And we're going to bring this to a boil on high, and once it's got a nice boil to it, we'll bring the temperature down. But we're going to add in some fresh herbs right now to give it just like a lovely flavor for it. So I'm going to add in the base of my green onions here. I'm just going to kind of cut off the roots. That will give it a nice oniony flavor. So we're going to just kind of cut the white parts off, and we're going to use that in here. There we go. And then we're going to I'm going to put some fresh oregano. So I'm just going to kind of peel off and get the little like sticks out of it. And this way, this rice will just have such a lovely flavor to it, which will pair really well with our meal. Okay. And then we're going to mince this up just a bit more. And then we're going to put in some chicken bouillon, a little bit of garlic salt in here in our rice. And that will kind of have it nice and flavored up. Okay. Add the last little bit here.
Yo has a question for you.
What's for dinner tonight? I have no idea. It took me a minute to figure out what we were having for lunch today. So I'm thinking... my daughter has a soccer game, and then we have soccer practice for my other daughter. So I've got to figure it out, but I've got time. So I probably won't get home till like 7:45 tonight. So something with an easy kind of prep up, but we'll see. I have lots of food. I just got to figure out what I'm going to make with it. Okay, and now we've added a little bit of garlic salt in here, and then we're going to add in about a spoonful. It's about, a teaspoon and a half of our chicken bouillon. And this is just going to flavor it up. So it's really easy to just jazz up plain rice, which just will add a little bit more flavor to our bowl. Okay, while that is starting to heat up, let's get our sweet potatoes prepped for our lunch here. We're gonna do like an oregano roasted kind of sweet potato. So nice kind of savory flavor that will pair well with kind of the Greek flavors that we're using. So we'll do our kind of peel on here. Ooh, maybe I'll do pork chops for dinner tonight. I'm already thinking about it because I was like, ooh, I should do mashed potatoes because I haven't done mashed potatoes in a while. So maybe I'll do pork chops. Okay, we're going to peel this off. I find peeling sweet potatoes with a knife is much easier than getting out your peeler and peeling them because sweet potatoes are, a little funky in shape and a lot of ridges. But you see how you have like a whiter skin here? That's a bit more dry, less flavor. When you peel it with a knife, you kind of get past that white and you just have that tender, juicy sweet potato left. So again, we're just going to peel, and you can actually get pretty close to the edge with a knife. And you don't even have to be that, skilled with it because you kind of just slightly push in and down at the same time. Just make sure you kind of cut off the top and the bottom of your sweet potato so you have a nice flat bottom for it to rest on. And this one's got a very interesting shape to it. There we go. But I love a savory sweet potato. I feel like lots of people like to do sweet potatoes sweet, but I think I personally prefer them savory. So this will be just like a delicious kind of nice roasted sweet potato to go with it. Okay, we're gonna cube these up into, I'm gonna probably cut this one into thirds, and then we'll kind of chop down the middle. And I'm just going for kind of like a dice sized cube on these. Not too big because I want them to kind of roast up nicely and get soft in the middle, but still have that nice kind of crispy edge on the outside. And the nice thing about sweet potatoes is, you know, you can roast them up, but you've got a, you know, hot minute before they get overcooked. Here we go. Kind of cut that one in thirds there. And then what? We're going to put them in here, and then we're going to coat them with olive oil, and then we're going to season them up and pop them in the oven at 425 under our air fryer setting. Oops. There. So we've got our sweet potatoes. I'm going to start them all in like a little pile. And I'm going to drizzle about like, you know, a half a tablespoon on them, so like a teaspoon and a half of olive oil. Then we're going to use some dried oregano. I'm going to use about, you know, I want to say teaspoon and a half. You want a good amount because it's just going to add so much flavor to it. Then we're going to add in some onion powder. This is going to give a nice savory flavor and help kind of crisp up our potato as well. I'll add in about a teaspoon. Well, I'll just use up the rest of that. And then we're going to add in our garlic salt and just a good shake over it. Kind of a nice dusting here. There we go. And now we're going to just get in with our hands and we're going to coat our sweet potatoes up with these herbs and that oil. And we want to make sure they all get coated so that your potato will stay nice and tender and not dry out. That oil is going to really help crisp it up, but also keep your sweet potato from drying out in the oven.
You have a question? Have you ever made goulash?
I have made goulash. Actually, you know what? It is one of those things. I ate a lot of goulash when I was a kid because I feel like it's one of those everything kind of recipes. But there's two different types of goulashes. There's the goulash that I feel like is very common in America, which is kind of like a soup with the macaroni noodles in it and the tomatoes base. We're going to go pop these in the oven and like ground beef. And then, which is like, I feel like I ate that a lot growing up. But then when I lived in Germany, during my foreign exchange, my German mother there, she made the most delicious goulash, which she served over Spätzle, which is a German noodle. I'm going to set this for about 15 minutes. And hers was like a slow stewed, you know, beef or pork in a like kind of rich sauce. I want to almost say like a tomato-based sauce, maybe with some red wine or something like that. But she served it over Spätzle, which is like a weird looking pasta that you actually kind of create by like squeezing the dough through your fingers and then you boil it off. So both of them, I love both of them, but they're very different recipes. And I feel like goulash is probably some like Polish or, you know, name for like a collection of stuff in it. Okay, we've got our sweet potatoes in the oven here. I'm going to give my rice a little stir just so I don't have any sticking to the bottom of it. We're still cooking our rice on high, but we will turn it down once we get a nice strong rolling boil. We'll turn it down and put our lid on for it. While we're waiting for all of that, let's get our veggies cooked up and then we'll cook up our little hero meat for it today. So I'm going to use one yellow onion, a small yellow onion. You don't need a huge one for this. So we'll take off our whole kind of outer skin here. And we're going to slice this up and start sauteing it. And then I have a bell pepper and then some tomatoes from my garden that we will also saute up, and then some snap peas. And we're going to use some fresh herbs to kind of season them. I cut them thin and then I just cut them in half. So they're not super long, but there'll be nice little chunks of onion in here. And we're going to saute up our veggies first. And then we'll remove them out into a bowl, and then we will heat up our meat.
You have a question? Have you made chili?
I actually have. So it's kind of crazy, but I make like a 50-pound pot of chili. And I have this huge pot, and it's so heavy. And I make it every year for the Super Bowl. It's like my specialty recipe. It's actually won a couple of awards for it. I do have the video. There's a very long video from back when the Super Bowl was of it, so that is posted for it. But it has won first place at 3 different competitions in 3 different states. And it won second place at a competition where it won a $700 acoustic Gibson guitar.
Gibson headquarters.
Yeah, Gibson headquarters, their chili cook-off. So I was like, it's a pretty good one. It always won my like work chili contest back when I used to work. But that was like a small fish competition. But it is so delicious, and it is like a very meaty, delicious chili. So I'll probably make it maybe once or in this fall. It's very hard to make a small batch of it because you use so many different cuts of meat in it. But it is delicious. And a lot of times I'll make 2 kind of parts with it where I'll like reserve, and I have just an all meat based chili. And then my other one, I add in like 6 different types of beans for it, which is what I like. But
my question is, the recipe posted?
The recipe is not posted, but the video, which has all of the steps on how to make it. So I made it on screen for everybody. So it's a full video that you can watch. And that is on there. So you can recreate it best by rewatching the video. And that was whenever the Super Bowl was this year. I did it on my Super Bowl Sunday. I kind of did a long stream because we were getting ready for our Super Bowl party. And I streamed making my chili and wings and all the dips that you have for it. So it's there. On there, so you could definitely recreate it from that, because I'm all about sharing. I don't keep it a secret. I think it's a great recipe. It's the one that all of my family members are always asking me, oh, can you send me your chili recipe? So it's delicious, but it is one of those things where I've gotten to the point where I can make it smaller by using half the cuts of meat I use to make the chili, and then half of it I save for this soup called Soup of the Bacony Outlaws, which is a Hungarian soup, which is really, really delicious as well. Okay, we got our peppers. This is just one bell pepper that we chopped up. Let me grab my tongs here. And then we're going to turn our rice down because we've got a nice boil on it. I'm just going to break up my onions. I'm going to turn this down now to about a 5 now that my pan is nice and hot. Let's give this one last stir. And then we're going to turn it all the way down to low. We're going to put our lid on. And then what I like to do is kind of slide it slightly off my burner. And I can do this because I have electric. With gas, you can't quite, it's not going to do it. But that gives even lower heat to it than being fully over it. So it's just a way to make it go even lower than the lowest setting, which works really well for rice to get it nice and fluffy. Okay. Let's I'm going to just kind of break these up. We're going to just let them start to kind of caramelize, and then we will throw in our peppers. I'm going to turn it down a little lower. While we're doing that, let's start on our Rice Krispie treats. So I'm going to turn my big burner in here, and I'm going to use 1 whole stick of butter. And we're making a big batch of Rice Krispie treats. And my recipe is a little bit different than like the basic recipe that is on like the box, because I use more butter and I use more marshmallow, which gives you a more moist, gooey, rich, delicious Rice Krispie treat. Once you've made them this way, you cannot go back to the like OG or even eat like the store-bought ones because you just feel like they're too dry. So we're gonna make those up because they're one of my kids' favorites, and they've already eaten through. I've got one coffee cake left and like one and a half brown blondies. Not even, it's like one blondie left. So I won't have enough to put in kids' lunches tomorrow. So Rice Krispies. And I always am just like, got to make sure they don't eat them all up in one night because the Rice Krispies go fast here in this house. Well, most food goes fast here in this house, but we are a big family. So, you know, I always think, I'm like, how did we eat through that much? But when I'm feeding 9 pretty much every day, and then I have my niece and nephew here, so that's 11, it kind of goes through pretty fast. Like a dozen of something doesn't last long. Let's add in our peppers. There we go. The only time I last is if I make something that the kids don't like. It'll be something like I like, but they don't like it, and that's when it lasts. I'll know, and I'm like, you guys weren't a fan. Okay, we got our peppers cooking in there. And you want to cook your butter on low and melt it down. I'm using room temperature butter so that it kind of will melt up faster. Now that I have a nice base of butter on here, I'm going to add in my marshmallows to start melting them up.
You have a question? What's your husband's favorite thing you make?
Ooh, well, we always have this discussion, what's the favorite thing I make? And it's probably ravioli, or what he's not saying, it's not, it's the Mongolian beef. No, you told me that was your favorite meal recently. Lemon tarts. Oh, well, I'm not thinking baked goods. So lemon tarts, and I rarely make them because they're such a pain to make because you got to. Yes, for dinner it's ravioli. For dessert it's lemon tarts, where I make little individual tart shells and like 80 of them, which is why I don't like making them because it's a lot of work. But he loves, and you then fill him up with like a lemon curd. That's his favorite dessert. He gets it twice a year. Father's Day and his birthday. Okay, we're gonna add in our marshmallows. And these are the pound of marshmallows. So we're gonna add 2 because again, I'm making a lot of Rice Krispie treats here.
Got a comment. Basically anything that's not rabbit food.
Yes, pretty much. If there's a vegetable in it, he's sad. But you know what? He has expanded his palate, and he eats a lot more than he used to when I first met. Although actually, when we were dating, I did not know he did not like vegetables because he ate every vegetable I made. And then, now he's like, picks all the veggies out. I drop my spoon into the butter so it's greasy. Okay, we've got our there on here. I'm going to kind of break it out. You want to use mini marshmallows because they just melt a lot easier. Like I said, we're using a lot of marshmallows here. And this is like the jumbo bag, so I'm only going to use half of it because I typically use 2 of the normal size bags. But for some reason, when you're a big family, I always just naturally grab the big bag of it. Okay. And we're going to let it start to melt. Nice and slow. You don't want to go too high on it or it's going to burn. Okay, we've got our peppers in here. Now we're going to add in our sugar snap peas. And then we're going to slice up there we go. Our tomatoes, because we're going to saute our tomatoes in here at last with our fresh herbs. And it will kind of give it a nice little base. Pull off some of those things. But the snap peas are going to add just a nice little crunch to this meal. This is the rabbit food that my husband does not eat. He will eat, he'll eat the sweet potatoes though, because I think he never gave sweet potatoes a fair shot, and now he's actually been liking them. And sweet potato fries he's been liking, as long as they're savory. Okay, we've got these in here cooking up. I'm going to prep my little tomatoes here. I've got them from my garden. Oh, this always makes me so sad. They're not bad, but we had a really big rainstorm. And when you get a big rainstorm, your tomato grows really fast and they crack, which means they're just not as pretty, but they're perfectly delicious and wonderful. They just don't look as pretty. It always makes me sad. It always happens after those big rainstorms or when I forgot that I had the sprinkler on and like 9 hours later I realize it's still running. It happens sometimes. I think the other day I was going to bed at night and I was like, ooh, that was a long time I watered them. Okay. Go. We're cooking these on low so that they steam up and cook so we don't have to do like the process of blanching them. Just a nice low cook on them. That way the natural heat in there will kind of steam them and make them tender soft. We'll know that they're kind of ready is when they get a bright, vibrant green and lose a bit of that paleness. Okay. We're starting to get it to melt. Now, you can do Rice Krispies in the microwave in a bowl if you want to. I find that it's really easy. I do this in my big 6-quart saute pan because Rice Krispie, that marshmallow mix, you just fill this thing up with water and let it sit. And like 10 minutes later, all of it's dissolved off and it's super easy to clean. And then I just mix it in here and then I put it in the serving container. So it's just easier.
Good question. Have you ever melted chocolate chips and spread it at the top layer?
Yes, actually I have. Now there's another thing. They're not quite Rice Krispies that I make, but they're basically Rice Krispies. They're called Scotcheroos, which is a peanut butter butterscotch Rice Krispie with a chocolate topping. And it's actually a chocolate butterscotch topping on it. Now, if you're not from like the North, Scotcheroos are like unheard of, I feel like. They're very common in the Midwest. I should say, not even the North, the Midwest. And they are delicious. You can like buy them at every Casey's gas station, which whenever I'm up, visiting family up there, I'm like, we are stopping at Casey's so I can get my Scotcheroos. But I do make those, and I will say they're slightly different than a Rice Krispie treat because you don't use marshmallow in them. You actually make their sticky base using like peanut butter and then corn syrup for it. So it's just slightly different. Here we go. We're getting this nice little meltiness of it. I'm going to turn again really down low. And once it's kind of all the lumps are gone, we will know that it is ready to put our Rice Krispies in. Okay, let's get our tomatoes here. Look at this. When I buy my, plants for my garden every spring, I always have to pick the most colorful ones. So I can't just pick a red tomato. It has to be the pretty tomatoes and like the purple bell peppers. Always has to be the fun colored stuff. Oh, lost that. We'll throw those in just a second.
Do you have a good meatloaf recipe?
I do. Actually, we made meatloaf I want to say like a month or two ago. My husband doesn't recall. We made mini meatloafs in a mini meatloaf pan with a barbecue sauce on them, like kind of not quite a barbecue sauce, but thing on there. But we do. I think there's a video of it. We made it sometime this summer. I want to say in June that we made it. And it's delicious. We're going to go look at our potatoes in just a second. I'm going to turn this down to my lowest of low setting because when we come back, we'll be able to add our Rice Krispies in there. But I find I make my meatloaf in the mini loaf pans because you get individual servings, but it keeps it nice and juicy as well. Let's check on our potatoes. I'm going to see if they're nice and tender. Perfect. We're going to pull these out and cancel that off. And I also use a panade when I'm making it, which is a bread and egg and cream mixture instead of breadcrumbs, because it makes a much more juicy, delicious, moist, I should say, meatloaf. Okay. Here we've got our kind of marshmallow filling here for it. nice and soft. It's okay if you have 1 or 2 lumps. Those will completely melt with the residual heat. I will also say the nice thing about doing it in there is it keeps your marshmallow goo nice and warm, which allows you to coat it a little bit quicker. Okay, turn this down to low while we do this. We got this giant size Rice Krispie bag, which I swear this was the size of our cereal boxes growing up as a kid. And now these are considered the giant size. And I'm like, that's pretty much what we had. Or I remember you could get the big bags of cereal. I feel like, or maybe we just got the big bags because I'm from a really big family. But I feel like the normal cereal boxes now are way smaller than they used to be. We are going to add in 9 cups of Rice Krispies. And I will say this is like that kind of that magic ratio of our thing 3. Because you don't my husband's counting for me. He realizes I'm really bad at this when I'm talking and counting. I like this. And then we'll mix it in. You don't want to add too much Rice Krispie treat or Rice Krispies because, again, you want a nice, moist, gooey Rice Krispies versus one that's dry. Okay, and now we're going to mix this up. And again, it being nice and warm is going to allow these to really mix in so much faster than if you had it in a bowl where it's already starting to cool off. There we go.
Chat is counting with you.
Oh, see, yeah. No, I know. It is, I'm just going to say, everybody should try counting while holding a conversation with somebody and see if you guys can do it. It's difficult. It's probably not that difficult, but it is for me. Okay. So here we've got them all pretty much mixed up, and you can see how they're all just kind of completely like coated with that delicious marshmallow mix. There's like no piece that isn't just like covered in that goo, which is what makes them so delicious. Okay, we're gonna put them in our thing in just a second, but let's add these tomatoes in here so they can start sauteing up. It's nice and bright and pretty rabbit food. I always say, my husband and I like compliment each other well because I'm the person who, when we go out to eat, I love all the sides. Like I could care less about the main protein. I want all the little delicious sides. And he is like the main protein. That's what he wants. So we compliment each other well because then I'm always like, let me pick your sides so I can get all of them the way I want. Let me grab just a little bit of spray. So I don't line it with parchment paper or anything like that. I just give it a little coating of, like olive oil. And that way, when I'm ready to cut them and pop them out, they will just slide right out. I can flip it over and the whole thing will pop out, which is nice. So let's scoop these guys in here. And also because this is nice and hot, these are going to come out of here really easy. I feel like Rice Krispies were like the treat that everybody had growing up. They were at every like class party. Somebody's mom always made the Rice Krispie balls at like the parties. It was that and Chex Mix. And now I don't feel like, nowadays you can't make any food for your kids and bring it to school. But I feel like Rice Krispie treats, nobody makes them anymore. Which is such a shame. They're so delicious. Okay, we're going to spread it out. Now, the trick to getting that perfect Rice Krispie is you've got to smush them down until there is no, like, air pockets between them. Steal a bite here, guys. Delicious. So, just use wax paper or parchment paper. Either one works. And then we're going to just put it over the top. And then you're just going to really push it down. And you've got to do this while it's still hot or warm so that you won't get a fluffy Rice Krispie. You'll get like a nice bar that will cut up easily. If you don't do it while it's, and you don't push it down, then when you try to cut it, it's just gonna pull apart. So really push it down nice and firm. And there we go. Okay, now you don't want to come off. I should have used parchment paper. It works a little bit better. We're going to have to do it with the parchment paper. It's because it's nice and gooey. That's what I go for, just grabbing it. So use parchment paper, guys. Don't use this. Okay. Parchment paper works better. I always just try to use wax paper because for some reason I buy wax paper, but you never use wax paper for anything. But I think it's just one of those things that you just bought because you always had wax paper in your house growing up. We're not going to let it stick at all today. But wax paper will work, guys, or parchment paper. Voila. So, parchment paper, guys. This is my wax paper, which I'm still waiting to figure out what I'm going to use it with. I probably bought this pack of wax paper when we moved into the house. And the only time I've ever used it is when you do those little projects with your kids with the like melty things, where you've got to like iron them. That's what you use wax paper for. No other uses. Okay, let's get this up. Let's add in our spices. Let's cook up our meat. And we're going to make our little tzatziki sauce. Okay, let's get our fresh oregano. I will add some nice veggie flavor to this. And you know what? I was just going to take the veggie pan out, but let's just grab another frying pan. That way we can cook it up at the same time. I'm going to turn this guy on. We're going to add just a smidge of olive oil. You don't need a whole lot because the meat that we're just heating up is already like juicy and has flavors in it. We're going to add in some fresh basil. We're going to use some of this basil also for our tzatziki sauce. We're going to primarily parsley, but I'm going to use a little bit of basil in there just to make it delicious. And then we've got some green onions here. So let's chop these herbs up. We'll put them in with our veggies. Once my oil's over there hot, we're going to add in our Gyro meat to cook up. Now, you could always just saute up some chicken and season it with some, oregano and use that instead if you don't have Gyro meat. Costco sells really good, delicious Gyro meat. Tastes just like those like quick Mediterranean cafes or Greek cafes you go to. But you can have it at home. Saves you the cost. And it's not actually that expensive, and you get a lot. We're only going to use one pack in there because it's about 2 pounds of meat. So we're just going to cook up one since this is just a quick lunch. Okay. Let's add in our fresh herbs. So again, that's oregano, basil, and green onions. And then we're going to add in a little bit of garlic salt. There's my lid. Good shake over. We've got a lot of veggies here to season up. And then we're going to give this a nice toss. And then we're going to really let those fresh herbs kind of pop out. And that's just going to add a lovely flavor for this. And I'm just going to turn it down now. I have got it off, so it's just steam heating. So we don't overcook any of those. We are almost done. We're just going to cook up our meat. Okay, so it comes in 2 little packs. So they're about £1 each. It's beef and lamb Gyro meat. And I will say, I'm always like, there are some things, I try to make most things by myself, but there are some things that I buy pre-cooked. Gyro meat is one of those things where if you actually know the whole process of it, it's really hard to make because you've got to have like a rotisserie stick, you got to season it up, you got to do all sorts of crazy things. So this is something that it's just much easier to buy it and reheat it. But if you don't have this, you can also just dice up some lamb, cube it up, marinate it with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, a little lemon juice, a little oregano, garlic, basil, garlic salt, saute it up, and that would taste delicious with this as well. And let me get a lid on here. Let's see. Trying to grab the right size because I've got too many lids. And that way it will steam and heat up at the same time. Now let's make our tzatziki sauce. And then we should be about ready to serve up here. We're going to use, instead of, you can use a plain yogurt base. I'm going to use sour cream because I never have yogurt. I'm going to put in about, I want to say a third cup because we don't need a whole lot of sauce here. Ooh, almost lost that. I've got a fresh cucumber. And I don't need a whole lot, so I'm just going to take about a fourth of it. And we're going to mince this cucumber up into like nice little bits of it. This is going to make your tzatziki sauce really, really fresh and delicious. It just makes it lighter. And then we're going to also use some fresh lemon juice, our fresh herbs, dill, and some garlic salt, and a smidge of red onion and green onion. But again, mince this up, and this is just going to make your sauce, just gives it texture, but it also just makes it really refreshing, which I think goes great with the lamb, or the hero meat, I should say. So we've got in our fresh cucumbers. Now I've got green onions, just the green part. I've got a handful of our fresh parsley and some of our basil from outside. And I'm going to mince this all up nice and fine, and we're going to throw that in there. If you have fresh dill, you would want to use fresh dill as well, a couple sprigs of it. But I struggle to grow fresh dill here because it's very, very hot and sunny, and it does not thrive in really hot environments. And I should probably just grow it inside, but I don't. But we're just going to use some dried. And you'll just need about, a fourth a teaspoon of it dried. You don't need like a huge amount. Here we go. So here's kind of our fresh herbs that will make this sauce so delicious. I'm gonna add that in there. And then we're going to toss our meat here real quick. Give this a good shake. And this is going to allow it to get crispy, but steam up and come apart at the same time. And that's what I find with this meat is you don't want to overcook it. Cook it with the lid on, steam it up, but allows it to stay juicy while kind of crisping it up. If you cook it on just a skillet over high heat, it can dry out really easily. Oh, losing my stuff, guys. Okay, let's get a smidge of red onion here. Like I said, guys, my red onion lasts me forever. So it's one of those things where a little one can add so much flavor to your recipes, but you don't eat a lot of them. So we're going to just kind of cut it up nice and small. This is going to give us a nice little onion flavor to it and a little bit of a crunch, which is always nice since it's a little bit firmer than the cucumbers. And then I've got the tiniest lemon you've ever seen. We're going to squeeze. There's that.
You have a question? How do you store your onion between uses?
So I keep it in my veggie drawer that kind of keeps it nice and moist and things, just wrapped up in a paper towel in the fridge. So you know how like you have a fruit drawer and a veggie drawer that keeps like the humidity right? That's where I keep it, just wrapped in a paper towel. I don't put it in a plastic bag or anything because I don't want it to like be too moist. And a little bit of garlic salt to season this up. If you had garlic or some fresh garlic, that would be great. I am all out of my garlic. Imagine that. So we're just going to be using garlic salt, which is also perfect. I think makes the garlic a little bit more mild flavor in it. But look at this. Oh, and I almost forgot the most important, a little bit of dill So we just need about, a fourth of a teaspoon. A little bit of dill goes a really long way to adding those like nice, that dilly flavor. Okay, we've got our tzatziki sauce. Let's see if our meat, look, there we go. Okay, it looks like it is nice and cooked up. We've got those nice crispy sears on part of it while still being lovely and juicy, which is what you want for it. Let's fluff our rice here that we have in there. This is our chicken rice that our rice that we cooked up with some chicken bouillon, green onions, fresh basil, and oregano. So it has just a lot of flavor, and I'm just gonna fluff it. Lovely. We'll turn that off, turn that off, turn that off, and then we are about ready to serve up here. So let me slide my Rice Krispies right over here. Now, with Rice Krispies, you can't eat them for well, you can technically eat them, but you'll be messy. You can't eat them for like 30 minutes to an hour because you need that to kind of firm up. If you try, what will happen is you'll just get really sticky. Let's get our sweet potatoes over here. So these are our oregano and basil sweet potatoes. So I'm going to have them, and we're going to grab our bowl, and we're going to serve up our lunch. Okay. I realize I need a spoon for this because that would take forever to try to fork it out. Okay, so for our things, we're going to start with our chicken herb rice. So it's jasmine rice cooked with an chicken bouillon with fresh green onions and oregano and a little bit of garlic salt. Then we are going to add in our sautéed veggies. We've got one bell pepper, snap peas, fresh tomatoes from our garden, and then we seasoned it with our fresh herbs, oregano and basil and green onions. And we have our oregano roasted sweet potatoes that are full of flavor that we crisped up in the oven. And then last, but definitely not least, we have our Greek hero meat that we will put on, and this is kind of like our meat base of our bowl. And then, of course, let's not forget a nice dollop of our homemade tzatziki sauce, which will just be very refreshing throughout. And then once our Rice Krispies have cooled off, we will have our delicious homemade Rice Krispies that have an extra gooey marshmallowiness to it that just makes it so much better. Well, guys, thanks again for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of our recipes, you can go to that link, search for what we cooked for. So today would be our hero bowls and Rice Krispies, and you guys can watch and cook along with us again. And we have months of videos going back to January. So there's lots of different recipes I've cooked up for you guys. And then we also have a link to our Amazon storefront that I have all of my different cooking gear and gadgets that I use. I've got my all-clad saute pans, hex-clad pans, my knives, my spatulas, all the different gadgets that I use in my kitchen for cooking, I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.